It was a film that barely made a sound in theaters. Yet decades later, its voice is louder than ever. The Shawshank Redemption didn't win Best Picture. It didn't dominate the box office. In fact, many people missed it entirely when it first came out. But somehow it climbed to the top of IMDb's greatest films of all time and stayed there for years. But what if I told you that even after watching it 10 times, you still haven't seen the full picture? Behind the prison walls and soft narration lies a world of hidden truths, shared only years later by the cast and crew. These revelations, they change everything, from emotional backstories the actors invented, to hidden symbolism, deleted endings, and subtle filmmaking choices that most viewers completely miss. This is a story you were never told about the Shawshank Redemption. And once you hear it, the movie will never look the same. Before a single scene was filmed, this movie was already in danger of disappearing. Why? Because it almost didn't get made. Stephen King's original story was considered unfilmable. It was quiet, psychological, introspective. But director Frank Darabont saw something special and wrote to King personally. What happened next was shocking. King sold him the rights for just $1. Yes, you heard that right, $1. It was part of King's Dollar Baby program to support new filmmakers. That symbolic sale gave Darabont full creative freedom without major studio interference. Tim Robbins later said, "We weren't trying to make a hit, we were making something honest." But that unusual beginning? It was only the first twist in Shawshank's unlikely journey. Then it got even more surprising. Those cold gray walls? They weren't just a set. Shawshank was filmed inside a real prison, the Ohio State Reformatory. The place had been shut down just 4 years earlier due to poor conditions. And once the cast walked through its gate, something shifted. Clancy Brown, who played the strict Captain Hadley, said, "You could feel the weight in those walls. It wasn't acting anymore." Tim Robbins would even sit in actual cells between scenes just to feel what real confinement did to the mind. But here's the twist. Many of the extras weren't actors. They were former inmates of that exact prison. Darabont wanted realism, and he got it. The faces, the gestures, the atmosphere, it was authentic. What happened next stunned even the crew. You've seen their performances. But what if I told you the actors were hiding entire secret stories in plain sight? Morgan Freeman created an entire backstory for Red, imagining him as a once powerful man who lost everything. That's why Red's so good at navigating prison life. He wasn't just clever, he was experienced. Tim Robbins took things even further. "I played two versions of Andy, he said. The man people saw, and the man quietly planning behind the scenes. Even his posture changed. Public Andy was stiff, careful. Private Andy, like when he plays music over the intercom, was relaxed, alive. And Brooks? That heartbreaking bird-feeding scene? Actor James Whitmore added it himself, based on memories of his own father. Then things got even more emotional. There's a visual code running through Shawshank, and most viewers never notice. Andy is almost always shown through some kind of barrier. Even outside his cell, he's framed by fences or shadows. Director Frank Darabont used that to show how deeply trapped Andy felt, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And that rooftop scene with the cold drinks, it's more than a break, Morgan Freeman said. That's where Andy starts building his second life. It's the first move in his long plan. The movie posters on Andy's wall? Not random. Rita Hayworth, Marilyn Monroe, Raquel Welch. They mark different chapters in Andy's transformation, from innocence to complexity to freedom. But then it got weirder. Rain, storms, gray skies. They weren't just for mood. Morgan Freeman later revealed that every time something painful or dark happens in the movie, it's raining when Andy faces danger, when the prison leadership falls apart, when fear takes over. But when Andy escapes, it's not just rain, it's thunder and lightning. The world itself feels electrified. And when Red finally reaches the beach, clear skies, pure sunshine. That moment was the only scene in the entire movie with bright, beautiful weather. The message? True freedom finally arrived. What came next almost never made it to the screen. That emotional beach reunion, studio execs tried to cut it. They wanted the movie to end on the bus, ambiguous, open-ended, but Frank Darabont refused. He believed the movie wasn't just about hoping, it was about seeing hope fulfilled. So he fought to keep that final scene. In fact, he filmed it first, before Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins had built their chemistry. That's why it feels so real. Slightly awkward, but full of warmth. Imagine how different the movie would feel without that final hug on the beach. But this wasn't the only major change. You remember Brooks, the gentleman released into a world he didn't recognize? But in the original story by Stephen King, he barely existed. Frank Darabont expanded Brooks into a central figure, and James Whitmore brought him to life with subtlety and sadness that resonated with millions. The bird, the library, the loneliness. It all built to a turning point in the movie. When Red later stands in the same room and sees Brooks was here scratched into the wood, and then adds his own mark, he's not just remembering Brooks, he's making a different choice. Then something unexpected came to light. Bob Gunton's chilling performance as Warden Norton felt too real to be fiction, and for good reason. He based the role on a real-life official from the 1950s, a man who presented himself as deeply moral while secretly misusing prison labor and finances. Darabont gave Gunton old newspaper clippings to study. What resulted was one of cinema's most unsettling villains smiling, quoting scripture, and hiding secrets behind a polished mask. When that mask finally cracks near the end of the film, it's not just about fear, it's about pride collapsing. And still, the film's biggest message wasn't what people thought. Most people think Shawshank is about Andy escaping. And yes, that's part of it. But according to the cast, the real redemption happens inside the walls. Andy transforms the prison itself, bringing books, music, learning. He gives people hope. In Red, his redemption isn't about walking free. It's about finally being honest with himself. When he sits in front of the parole board and says he's done pretending. That's the real freedom. It's not about escaping the prison. It's about escaping the mindset that kept him trapped. One of the most powerful elements in Shawshank isn't a performance or a line of dialogue. It's the music. Composed by Thomas Newman, the score does something rare. It evolves with the characters. Early in the film, the music is distant, cold, almost mechanical. But as the story moves forward, the sound warms. Strings swell, melodies deepen. And by the end, the music feels like freedom. Tim Robbins once said, "The score mirrors Andy's journey. It starts behind bars and ends under sunlight." And remember that moment when Brooks leaves the prison, unsure how to live on the outside? The music doesn't push you to feel, it gently reflects his confusion and fear. Then something subtle changed everything. Morgan Freeman revealed that Newman composed the music not to lead emotions, but to follow them. He said, "The music never told you what to feel. It let you arrive there on your own." That might be why it stays with you. It's not just background, it's the heartbeat of the story. When Shawshank hit theaters, it got buried. Lost between blockbuster giants like Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction, it didn't even make back its production budget. But then something rare happened. People discovered it. On VHS, on cable TV, on late-night reruns. And when they found it, they didn't just watch it. They shared it, over and over again. Morgan Freeman called it comfort food for the soul. And he was right. People watched it when they felt stuck, when they felt hopeless, when they needed a reminder that life can get better, even from the darkest place imaginable. Shawshank wasn't an instant hit. It barely made back its budget. But over time, something incredible happened. It found its audience through word of mouth, VHS, late-night TV reruns. People didn't just watch it once. They watched it every time it came on. They shared it, quoted it, felt it. Today, the old prison is a museum. Fans from around the world visit the cells, walk the halls, stand where Andy and Red stood. Because Shawshank isn't just a movie. It's a message that no matter how stuck we feel, no matter how dark the room may seem, there's always a way forward. As Andy once said, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies.